Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's, well, been shaping America since day one. Religion. It's been a real cornerstone, affecting private lives, the public square, everything.
Absolutely.
And the debates around it still incredibly relevant. Think about finding personal meaning or religious expression in schools, in government.
Yeah, these aren't just historical questions, they're live issues.
Exactly. So we're going to dive deep into three central, often pretty heated questions about religion's complex role here in America.
Right, and our mission today is really to give you a solid grounding. We'll look at this through, well, all the lenses. Philosophy, sociology, psychology, law, history.
The whole toolkit.
A whole toolkit. The goal is to help you understand not just how religion shapes things, but maybe why we keep having these conversations, why that dialogue is so vital in, our kind of diverse society.
Okay, let's unpack this. First big question, and it's a fundamental one. Do we actually need religion to find meaning in life?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Historically, religion has obviously been a primary source for countless people. You've got philosophers like Wittgenstein and D.Z. Phillips. They saw religious belief as less about just doctrines and more about, how you live it, right? The faith, the practice, the rituals. It gives you a kind of language for life's big questions.
Purpose, suffering, morality.
Yeah, all of it. Even the afterlife.
And, building on that, there's the functionalist view in sociology. Think Emile Durkheim.
Right. Community.
Exactly. Religion provides this comprehensive worldview, sure, but Durkheim really stressed how it binds communities together. Shared beliefs, shared moral codes.
That sense of belonging.
A powerful sense of belonging, yeah. And support. And we see how that's motivated huge social movements throughout history. Yeah. Abolitionism, civil rights.
And even just contemporary charity work, right?
Yeah.
So much of it is faith-based.
A huge amount, absolutely.
Okay, so that's the religious framework. But what about folks who don't follow a specific faith? Are there, other solid ways to build a meaningful life?
Oh, definitely. Secular philosophies offer really robust alternatives. Think about humanism, for example.
Okay.
It puts the focus squarely on human dignity, on reason, critical thinking, and living ethically based on empathy and shared humanity. No need for divine command there.
And then you have the existentialists, like Sartre or Camus.
Yeah. They argued that meaning isn't found, it's created by us, through the choices we make, authentically. A very different starting point.
So meaning from within, essentially.
Yes, and it's important to remember secular communities can also provide that sense of belonging. Think about clubs, volunteer groups, social movements.
Good point. They can offer similar social bonds and shared values.
They absolutely can. Now, psychologically, there is evidence suggesting religion can boost well-being. Some studies link religious belief to, say, lower anxiety or depression, maybe more resilience.
Higher life satisfaction, things like that.
Sometimes, yes. And rituals like prayer, for many people, provide real comfort and structure in daily life.
But that well-being, that sense of meaning, it's not exclusive to religious people, is it?
Not at all. That's a crucial point. Secular sources, close relationships, achieving personal goals, creative work, contributing to society, these can be incredibly fulfilling, deeply meaningful.
You mentioned Viktor Frankl earlier, finding meaning even in the absolute worst circumstances.
Exactly. His work shows meaning can come from love, from purpose, even from how we face suffering we can't avoid. It's a powerful testament to human resilience, regardless of belief.
Which really brings us back to the American context, doesn't it? This idea of pluralism.
It really does. America embraces this huge spectrum, countless religious traditions side by side with secular worldviews.
And the freedom to choose your path.
That freedom to seek and define meaning, whether it's spiritual or secular, that's fundamental. It's protected constitutionally, sure, but it's also just part of the cultural fabric.
Okay, so that discussion on personal meaning flows right into a very public, often contentious area. Our schools.
Ah, yes. The perennial question.
Should religion be taught in public schools? It's always sparking debate, always under legal scrutiny.
And to really get it, you have to look at the history in the law. The big one everyone points to is Engel v. Vital back in '62.
School prayer, right?
School-sponsored prayer, yeah. The Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. It really cemented this idea of state neutrality. The government can't be pushing religion in schools.
But it's tricky because the First Amendment cuts both ways, doesn't it?
Exactly. You've got the Establishment Clause, no government endorsement of religion, but then you have the free exercise and free speech clauses protecting individual religious expression. It's a built-in tension.
And then came the Lemon Test.
Right, Lemon v. Kurtzman in 71 gave us that three-part test. Does the policy have a secular purpose? Does it mainly advance or inhibit religion? Does it create excessive government entanglement with religion?
That seems tough to apply in practice.
It can be very tough, especially those last two prongs. What counts as advancing or inhibiting? What's excessive entanglement? It's often debated. But the core distinction courts try to maintain is teaching about religion versus promoting religious practice.
Like history class versus Sunday school.
Kind of, yeah. Academic study versus devotional activity.
You know, focusing on the controversy is easy. But there's a strong argument that teaching about world religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, others, is actually really important.
Absolutely essential, many argue.
How can you understand history or literature or art or even current global politics without knowing something about these major faiths?
You really can't get the full picture. And beyond just knowledge, proponents say religious literacy fosters tolerance and respect.
Makes sense. Understanding different beliefs could reduce prejudice.
Exactly. Helping students appreciate diversity, see where different traditions come from. Some educators feel leaving religion out entirely gives students an incomplete, almost sanitized view of the world.
Okay, but then there are the risks. This is where it gets dicey.
The tightrope walk.
How do you teach about religion without it slipping into indoctrination? Especially in places where maybe one faith is really dominant in the community.
That's a constant concern. Defining neutral teaching is hard. Teachers might unintentionally favor one view, or students from minority faiths might feel marginalized. Curriculum choices themselves can become huge battlegrounds.
Because America's just so diverse religiously. You've got all kinds of Christians, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, plus a growing number of non-religious folks.
Right, and navigating that diversity in a public school setting is inherently complex.
And what about student rights? Kids can still pray individually, right?
Yes, absolutely. Students generally retain rights to private, voluntary religious expression, like individual prayer, wearing religious attire, forming student-led religious clubs, as long as it doesn't disrupt the educational environment or infringe on others' rights.
But the school can't make them participate.
Definitely not. Schools can't compel or endorse religious practices, but the lines get tested all the time. Think about controversies over religious clothing, distributing materials, how holidays are observed.
It always comes back to that tension between individual freedom and keeping church and state separate.
Precisely. And the landscape keeps shifting too, with charter schools, homeschooling, private religious schools all adding different dimensions to how education and religion intersect.
Which leads us perfectly into our third question. This one's loaded with history and politics. Was America intended to be a Christian nation?
Ah, the big one. This sparks endless debate.
So what does the historical evidence actually say?
Well, if you look closely at the Constitution itself, there's a very deliberate separation of church and state baked in. The Establishment Clause is clear. No official state religion.
And no mention of Christianity specifically.
Not a single mention, which is pretty significant. Now, the founders, they had diverse views. Many were Christian, absolutely. But key figures like Jefferson, Franklin, Madison, they were really influenced by Enlightenment ideas about reason and individual liberty.
They pushed for religious freedom for everyone.
Strongly. Think of Jefferson's Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom or Madison's arguments in the Federalist Papers. They wanted to protect conscience, avoid the religious conflicts they'd seen in Europe.
And then there's that fascinating piece of evidence, the Treaty of Tripoli.
Yes, from 1797. Ratified by the Senate, signed by President John Adams.
And it says what?
It explicitly states, and this is a direct quote practically, the government of the United States of America is not, in any sense, founded on the Christian religion.
Wow. That seems pretty unambiguous.
It's remarkably clear. It really underscores that intent for a secular republic where the government wasn't tied to any one faith, ensuring freedom for all faiths.
Yet the debate rages on today. Why?
Well, it's complex. Some people argue quite passionately that Christian values, ideas about justice, charity, the value of human life, deeply influence the nation's founding principles.
And they point to things like In God We Trust on money or prayers at public events.
Exactly. They see evidence of a Christian heritage woven into the fabric of American law and culture. Others push back just as strongly, emphasizing that pluralism and that constitutional secularism are the true foundations.
The idea being the system was designed to protect all beliefs, not privilege one.
Precisely. To create a space where Methodists, Baptists, Catholics, Quakers, Jews, and yes, even those with no religion, could coexist freely under the law.
But we also have to acknowledge, historically, American public life did often reflect a kind of Christian dominance, didn't it?
Oh, unquestionably. Especially in earlier periods, Bible readings in schools were common for a long time. Christian holidays became national holidays. There was often an assumption of a shared Christian culture.
So there's the ideal, and then there's the historical reality.
Right. But what's also clear is the evolution over time. Our legal system, our political institutions, they've gradually moved towards greater protection for religious diversity.
Supreme Court decisions, laws.
Yeah, expanding protections for minority faiths, for non-believers, reinforcing that principle of neutrality and equality. The trend has been towards embracing pluralism more fully.
So this question of America's religious identity, it's not really settled, is it? It's an ongoing conversation.
It absolutely is. Especially now, as the country becomes even more diverse, religiously and culturally, we see growing numbers of people identifying as religiously unaffiliated, the nones, alongside vibrant non-Christian faith communities.
So the challenge is finding that balance, honoring the history, whatever you believe it to be, while upholding pluralism in secular government for everyone today.
That's the crux of it. It's a delicate, ongoing balancing act.
Okay, so pulling all this together, it's clear that religion's role in America is just incredibly multifaceted. It's dynamic.
Definitely not simple.
For so many, it's a core source of meaning, community, moral guidance. But for others, meaning comes from totally different places: secular ideas, relationships, work.
And we see that complexity mirrored in the debates about schools, that tightrope between education and indoctrination, respecting rights while maintaining neutrality.
Right. And then the whole Christian nation question, pitting historical intent against cultural influence and evolving interpretations.
And navigating all of this really demands constant dialogue, doesn't it? Critical thinking and a real commitment to both protecting religious freedom and maintaining secular governance. It's not an either.
That seems like a good place to land. So here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to consider. As America keeps changing, keeps evolving, what does it truly mean to ensure that every single person, no matter their faith or lack thereof, can fully participate in public life, can find meaning on their own terms, and can contribute to a society that genuinely values both diversity and unity?
Something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about.